You were singing Aaron's praises yesterday, and I was just kind of curious about the nuances of his defense. I saw he was one of the most aggressive guards to kind of pick guys up in the backcourt, and I'm just kind of curious what you've seen from him.
Yeah, I think it's something that he's done for a long time. It's just part of who he is as a player. It's a way that he knows he can impact the game, whether it's picking up, communicating, defending pick and roll. At his size, he's less formidable in a help role, but as a point guard, he's guarding the ball. It's something that I know he takes great pride in.
Quinn, I think I know how you're going to answer this, but are you are you focused on standings at all, day to day?
Yes, it's hard not to be, and I'm not trying not to be. But I do know if we play the way we did in the first half that we're not going to be playing long. And if we play the way we did in the second half, we've got a chance. So I think that even at this point in the year, you want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year. For us, that's a little different, given the fact that there's some things, as I've talked about before, that we're trying to do and trying to. They're not going to become second nature yet, but I think they're things that really fit our group. That make sense, and we're going to keep trying to improve. But there's no question that it's hard to follow it. Everything's so tight anyway. You don't really know. So I think when I say to the extent that I'm not as focused on it, it's just really a question of focusing on us, and not just in a kind of a improvement standpoint, but day to day, night to night, controlling what we can control. That the best way for us to impact the standings is to win, and not worry about what everybody else does, but just to not know. So.
And kind of along those lines, I know, like you alluded, every day's a new adventure. But has it gone these past few weeks? Has it gone kind of how you expected? Has it been harder than you expected? Easier? Did you have no expectations?
Yeah, it was hard to have any real concrete expectations at the outset. I think there was more that kind of hit you. It's hard to anticipate everything. It's just things that are happening that you can't plan for. But as I've said before, I think the guys on the staff have been great for me, helping me see certain things and work through certain things quickly, educating me, and same thing with guys on the team. So it's so relevant. Every day is a little bit different when you put it that way, and there's still new things that happen day to day.
Quinn, earlier, where guys like AJ, Garrison, and Aaron weren't getting rotation minutes, but then all of a sudden they get it because of injury.
Right.
What kind of conversations were you having with them prior that allowed them to be able to come into the game and have an immediate impact and still stay engaged?
Yeah, I think very, very candid, real conversations that don't take anything for granted as far as what those guys have to do to be ready, and that being the expectation. Like when I said it the other day, last night about Aaron, that's what you expect, from guys that are pros, and that's, to the extent that they're able to do that, that really solidifies them in a role that, potentially allows, that role to increase. But oftentimes that's how you impact the game, and you don't know when those opportunities are going to come, whether it's foul trouble or injury or whatever it may be. So I think all of those guys have been through it. The younger guys maybe not as much, but we had a window when Jalen was playing really well, and AJ, I won't say had hit a wall, but I think that it was important for him to kind of regenerate, and that happened. And then JJ's been dealing with a hamstring, and all of a sudden AJ's back in and ready to go. And you can make a case for when we get everybody healthy, you can make a case for anyone the way guys have played during certain times. So those are always, people always say, well, those are good decisions, tough decisions, and good decisions. And, they're not always easy, but you just do the best you can with them.
DeMarco Cole, Memphis Commercial Field. Quinn, just wondering, with the Grizzlies now bringing John Morant off the bench past couple games, he's been playing a lot against reserves and having success there. Just wondering, as a coach, does that impact the way you use your rotations, knowing that he could be going against your
Right.
reserves more often than not?
No, I think that's always a question. Do you try to match certain guys in the game with matchups? It's usually not someone you're matching to someone like Ja. But it is a discussion you have even if you don't adjust your rotation. In that second group, you have to talk about matchups and who's, who you have as far as, from a substitution pattern that will guard him. So you can tweak it a little bit as well. You might not start someone in order to match up with him. That's more extreme, right? But that definitely goes into your thinking.
Terry Tracy in Memphis. On that same line, Memphis scores on multiple facets level. How do you decide to pick your boys?
You really, I think the biggest thing is you don't get to choose anything if you don't get back. And that begins with being efficient offensively, because they are so dynamic in transition and their ability to not just, they get the ball in the paint, they score in the paint, and it's really hard to protect the paint in transition. So if that's the case, if someone's not scoring at the rim or in the deep paint, you've probably done a good job no matter who's taking the shot. So that would probably be the focus that I would put on that.
Quinn, you mentioned the relationship that you have with Taylor Jenkins from your past time here in Atlanta with him on the coaching staff, and seeing both you and he and other coaches branch off into other organizations and maintain coaching principles but having different identities as a team. How does that all come about from the time that you do spend together and then branch off?
Well, I guess I always think of, even though Taylor and I were here together, it was a quick window. My relationship with Taylor began, in the D League, and early on for both of us in this kind of NBA, journey. So I think that in some respects was as good a training as anything, because over the course of the season, even over the course of a couple weeks, your roster would change so much. So when you look around the league, for myself, even recently, depending on where you are, your roster is always going to be different, and the ability to adapt how you play based on your personnel, I think is so. There are some fundamental things, as you mentioned, that are going to be consistent, but being able to not fight that, to accept that that's the case, and trying to maximize what you have, and that was something that that we both went through together in the D League. The G League. Sorry.
It was D at the time.
It's the D is the D. The G is a different letter. Sounds like really simple, right? There's a lot there when you unfold.
Okay. All right.